All right, let's go and get started, guys. So welcome to another one of the Design Safe webinars. We do a series of these all year long. This is the second one in the series for this semester. So today we're planning on going into some of the methods of getting your data into DesignSafe. All right. Before I get started, I kind of want to give you guys a little bit of introduction to who we are. So first off, let me introduce myself. I'm Charlie Day. I'm the Director of Training and Professional Development here at Tack. I'm also the training lead on DesignSafe, and welcome to Tack. So before we get started, let me introduce you to what Tack is. So Tack is a Texas Advanced Computing Center. We are the infrastructure that's sitting behind DesignSafe. Though we do a little bit more than that. We have about 160 people on staff. We're a research center located here at UT Austin. Most of our funding comes from the National Science Foundation and some from the UT systems as well. We have about 10,000 users and about 3,000 active projects as of now. And we're partnered with a bunch of different facilities nationwide. And so part of our mission is to enable discoveries that advance science and society. So DesignSafe falls into that category immensely. So a little bit more about Tack. We do about 1 billion compute hours per year, about 5 billion files and 50 petabytes of data, hundreds and hundreds of public data sets that users can then download onto their machines and search. And some of the things that we offer, some of the services we offer besides the big giant machines is, we consult with high performance computing, high throughput computing, cloud computing, and large scale data storage. We do a lot of portals and gateway development, and we do some web service APIs and some rich software stacks. If you guys are interested in that, contact one of us here at Tack, and we'll be happy to give you some more information. And of course, we do consulting, data curation, analysis, code optimization, and we do a lot of training and outreach. So we have about 15 to 20 different HPC resources at Tack. The main one that we're going to be using for DesignSafe particularly is Stampede 2 and our data collection system called Corral. So Corral has about 11 petabytes of data that's replicated between 2 data centers, Austin and Arlington. We have 5 terabytes free to all the UT system principal investigators. And then we can sell data as well, or storage data as well for a nominal fee. And then we do project data sharing, collection hosting. This system that you see on this slide, this is a system that all of our DesignSafe data resides on. So this is a system that you'll be accessing later on when you're trying to get your data into DesignSafe. And of course, our flagship system is Stampede 2. Stampede 2 has approximately 6,000 nodes. We have about 4,200 Intel Knights Landing, the KNL nodes, and we have about 1,700 Intel Xeon Skylake processors. Those are multi-core processors, and they each bring a different, they enable science in different ways to the table. One of the things that we do here is a lot of our applications that DesignSafe run, for example, OpenFOAM, MATLAB and whatnot, are ran on these nodes that get spun up and accessing the project that you're trying to execute. One thing also of notice is that some of these nodes and our resources are also available to you as DesignSafe users. Automatically issued to each user when their account is created is you have a base allocation of about 8,000 service units and about 50 gigabytes of data. This is roughly equivalent to the use of a single processor core for 1 year. All you need to do to activate it is just contact one of us here at Tack, send in a ticket through DesignSafe, and we could activate that base allocation for you. There's some eligibility requirements on getting additional allocations on DesignSafe, and these are a list of what those additional allocation requirements are. And then we also, when you go beyond that, there is a certain charge involved, and we talk about how that compute time is charged. And then how do you apply for additional allocation? Submit a help ticket through DesignSafe, and we will need some information about your eligibility, what research you're planning on performing, and the sources of support, and then there's some justification for the number of service units that you're going to require. All right, there are some limits. We have different types of allocations available to you. We have a base allocation, we have a startup allocation, a research allocation, and an educational allocation. If you need more information on these, like I said, feel free to contact us here at Tack, and we'll be happy to give you the information. And then this is a little bit about the size and the limits of the allocation. It's about $100 per terabyte per year, and compute time is about 0.0125 dollars per core hour. Okay, and then these are the requirements for additional allocation proposals, what we're looking at when we're reviewing the criteria, which is the scientific merit and significance of your proposal, the methodology, and if you're doing the appropriate use for a design safe resource, the success of prior or other existing allocations, use of other NHERI funded facilities, for example, as well, and any funded support for the project, as in who else might be funding this, or are there other NSF projects available for this? Okay, so with that, let's talk a little bit about DesignSafe, especially for those of you who are new. So DesignSafe, our entire vision of DesignSafe is to create a cyber infrastructure that is going to be an integral part of your research. We don't want it to be like a static source of data. We want this to be a dynamic part of data. What we want really is for you to interact with this interface, to interact with the data, to be able to do your analysis, be able to generate your code, run your simulations, and do your visualization on DesignSafe. So what is DesignSafe exactly? Well, it's a cloud-based analysis tool, all right? We support the analysis, we support visualization, and integration of different data types into one environment. You've probably heard the word big data floating around. This is a key to unlocking that big data. Throughout this entire presentation, I'll be talking about data and what DesignSafe is really trying to do. Data tells a story, and the entire reason you generate data is to get that story out to other people. What we want DesignSafe to be is one of the tools you use, your primary tool that you use, to get that story out. And then, of course, DesignSafe, we also want to enhance, amplify, and link the capabilities of all the other NHERI components under one umbrella. So how is DesignSafe doing this? So DesignSafe has a lot of moving parts to it. There's the simulation research, there is the experimental research, and then there's the rapid research that goes out and does the reconnaissance work. All the research that they do, all the information that they generate, all the data that they generate goes into our central repository that we call the data depot. The data depot is what we'll be interacting with today. We also have another part of DesignSafe, which is the discovery workspace. This is where all the tools are located at and all the applications are located at, and they generate data and they read data from the data depot. And then finally, to get this entire end-to-end research cycle fully enveloped, is we can curate and publish your data as well. So the data depot, you're generating your data. You also want to be able to curate it so it's easily understandable, easily followable. And then we want to be able to publish it so it's now publicly available. And all that information comes out of the data depot. All right, so the first thing we want to do is DesignSafe is built, or like I said, one of our goals of DesignSafe is to make a community, to be able to collaborate on projects, collaborate on your data, to collaborate with other users. So for that, we've decided to help this community along. We're going to integrate in Slack. So those of you who've never used Slack before, Slack is essentially a communication tool, but it is really a lot more than just a simple communication tool. When you first sign on to DesignSafe, you should get an invitation to come to the DesignSafe Slack channel. Here's the URL for it, DesignSafe-CI.slack.com. Go ahead and log in, create your ID. You'll see that there's a lot of channels involved. Each channel is essentially a topic of discussion. You can create as many channels as you like, depending on what topics you wish to discuss. And you can also create private conversations with other DesignSafe users. Some of the most popular DesignSafe channels right now have been with all the events, all the hurricanes that have been going through. Each hurricane essentially gets a channel, and people load images, pictures, keep each other abreast of the situation through Slack. So it's been a great communication tool, and it is really building a community. So you can also do cute little things in DesignSafe as well, or in Slack as well. I use it a lot to give me reminders, especially reminders from when webinars are on, and I can start messages for follow-ups. The one thing that I like a lot is you can create a keyword search and make that keyword search active. So whenever that keyword appears in a conversation, you'll get notified, and so you can see what that notification is. All right, so let's go ahead and get started talking about DesignSafe. So when you're working with DesignSafe, place to get help is that on the main screen under the help menu. That's where the frequently asked questions are. That's where all the user guides are located at. And we have a getting started guide to get you up and going with DesignSafe, and that is where you submit a ticket. Earlier I mentioned if you have any questions about Tack in particular or any of our resources, to go ahead and submit a ticket at the under DesignSafe. That's where I'm talking about going. All right, so first off, one of the first places we want to hit, and I'm going to do a little walkthrough about of DesignSafe, at least all the different components that integrate data, and then we'll go ahead and do a little bit of live clicking and seeing how all these pieces actually move. So the first place you need to go is the data depot, and so the data depot is a place to host the full life cycle of your data. All right, this is where we can discover, publish, share, upload, and download our data. What's great about the data depot, it has a multi-purpose. It's not just a data repository for experimental and simulations, but it also places where your scripts sit, where your files sit, anything you want to share with other people, you can put those inside there as well. And what we have really encompassed is a flexible data model. So one thing about the data depot is it is not set on a particular data structure. This is an open structure for you to be able to load whatever it is convenient for you to do your research work in. It's a lot like almost a Explorer or a Finder window in Slack. It's basically a file system if you look at it. So underneath the data depot, there is a place called My Data, and My Data is where all of your data sits. That's where your folders, your experiments, your projects, your scripts, everything that you require to do your research can sit inside the My Data folder, the My Data space. Also, under DesignSafe, there is My Projects. My Projects is a place for you to collaborate with other users. You create a project, you add in your collaboration users who are the PI, the co-PI, and then all of you have access to this particular folder, and then that is where you would be loading your data in and out of. And we'll talk a little bit more about projects here in a little bit. The next thing we have is we have some cloud providers in the data depot. These cloud providers right now is Box.com, Dropbox, and the Google Drive. Once again, this is a place for you to be able to pull your data from. It doesn't automatically sync. So I would then take my laptop, load my data into one of my cloud providers, say my Google Drive, and then from DesignSafe, go to Google Drive and pull my data out of Google Drive into DesignSafe. Also, there is a place for published data. So, well, like I said, one of the things we do with DesignSafe is you want to publish your data. You want to make that publicly available. The published data is where that happens at. This is a repository that once your data has been formally curated under My Projects, and you want to publish it for the rest of the community to look at, this is where you would essentially, this is where the data would go. So the basic idea is you have a project, you have some collaborators, you've been working on this project, you come to a place where you want to publish that project, you want to publish your data. Once you publish it, it appears in the published folder. It's also publicly available, so you do not have to be a DesignSafe user to be able to get to the published data. Also, you get a DOI, and that DOI links back to the publicly available data as well. Finally, there is community data. Community data is uncurated, unformatted data. It's essentially a place where I created a really cool Jupyter notebook. This Jupyter notebook parses out a CSV file and automatically applies column names and column headers and allows me, and puts everything in some sort of format that's easier to read, easier to utilize. I think that notebook's really cool. So what I might do is put that notebook in community data and have it available for the rest of the DesignSafe community data access. So you can put bits of data in there for people to look at, people to test. You can write some scripts that you think would be useful for other users in DesignSafe to look at. You might have some DesignSafe notebooks in there, or some Jupyter notebooks in there. You could put some images that you've taken in reconnaissance, and you want to put those on there as well. It's a community folder with an informal setting, so it's not quite as formal as published data. Okay, so I've been talking about data curation a few times. Let me talk about data curation in a little bit more detail. All right. So our philosophy behind data curation is to allow users to easily share and store and document and publish their data. So it is a lot like when you're writing, for those of us who deal with data. So those of us who deal with data on a daily basis, you want to make your data easily understandable, easily readable. So I can take this my database, hand it to somebody else, and that somebody else will then be able to look at the data and realize, oh, this is what he's trying to solve. So to do that, we have to curate your data. All right. Once again, we support a flexible data model. So the curation process is basically up to the researcher how he wants to be able to define what the data set is and how the data set is built. And then, of course, there's things to consider. You need to consider what of that data that you have, what parts of that is required and what parts of that needs to be understandable by an external user. So, you know, you can create different categories for your data set, for example. We have some sample categories here: configuration, sensor information, it's an event, or you're doing analysis, or it's some sort of report. Basically, you categorize your data. Categorize it, you say what parts of the data belong to what category, and then you publish it out. So to do that, you define a category tree. So for example, here we have one for model config. So we have a model configuration, we defined a sensor, and we define an event. And then we have another model configuration, a different sensor, and a different event, and so on and so forth. So we've defined this tree. Now what we want to do is we want to take that tree and we want to assign different files we have for that data to those categories that we created. So, you know, here's some folders with files in it, and then we're going to say what category goes to what folder. So the basic process is you define the category tree, you assign the category to your files, and then you publish your project. Once you publish your project, the entire project goes out and becomes now available in the published data folder. Some things that come up worth noticing: you have a date of publication, the date of publication, and you have a DOI. The DOI allows you to cite your data from different locations or in some sort of paper. Also, it's good to realize once your data has been published or the project has been published, it essentially becomes a snapshot in time. So you can no longer modify the published version. If you wish to publish again, well, then you go back to your original project, you make your modifications, make your additions, and you publish it again, and you get a different DOI and a new publication date. Okay, so a little bit about that. We have different data models. There's experimental, simulation, other, hybrid simulation, and field reconnaissance. And I want to also tell you that we have virtual office hours with our data curator. So Maria Esteva, who is our data curator here at Tack, she holds Tuesday and Thursday Zoom meetings, and I believe those are actually listed on DesignSafe website, where she will be more than happy to guide you through the process of curating your data and getting it ready for publication. We understand that data creation itself is a large topic, and we could very well spend an entire week talking about data curation. So we have Maria available to you as a great resource to be able to help you get your data curated and published. All right, So like I said, your data tells a story, and it's very difficult to tell the story if we can't get your data into DesignSafe in the first place. So there are multiple avenues of getting your data from your machine into DesignSafe. All right. Each of them has a little bit of drawback, but each of them have also their benefits on exactly what it is you're trying to do. The number one way of getting data in here is you can use the data depot, or you can upload through Jupyter. That's like a small number of files and a small size of files. You can also go through Box.com, Dropbox, and Google Drive, as we mentioned earlier. And then, of course, there's Globus. Globus is another cyber infrastructure that's been designed that you can essentially connect to endpoints. Take your two endpoints and you can transfer large sets of data from one endpoint to the other. And I will talk a little bit about how to get that going and get that started. Then, of course, those of us who are comfortable using a command line, we do have rsync and SCP available. So you can write through there. If you need more information on how to do the the data transfers or using Globus, these two links on this slide take you to the the data transfer guide and to the Globus data transfer guide. All right, so let's look at these in a little bit more detail. First off is uploading through the portal. And like I said, when we're uploading through the portal, we're meaning uploading directly into the data depot. We're talking about a small number of files, say about 25 files or so, and smaller sized files, where each file is less than about 100 megabytes. So in DesignSafe, under the Add button, there's a place for new folders, creating new projects. There's also file upload and folder upload. Now, the file upload at this point only can upload one file at a time. You cannot multi-select files and bring them in. You can do a folder upload where you take one whole folder and bring that in. But essentially, click Add, select the file you wish to upload or the folder you wish to upload, and then click OK, and it'll start the upload process. And as I said, we'll demo this here in just a bit. So those will bring it in, and you can also drag and drop your files in here as well. It works just as easily, but you choose your files and you click Begin Upload. I'd also like to make a note that we do have a utility called Zip available to you in DesignSafe, so you can zip up all your files that you would like, make one compressed file, zip, then take that zip file, upload that to DesignSafe, then using the zip application in the Workbench, you can then unzip your folder, unzip your files into a particular folder. Also, we can connect to our cloud storage providers. Now, these are medium number of files, so I said about 50 files or so, and smaller size file, once again, about 100 megabytes, or like a smaller number of files, say about 25 files, but they're about 250 meg. So about medium-sized number of files and medium-sized files. And then your cloud storage providers do a great job of getting that data transferred through. A little bit about how DesignSafe works and why we have these kind of limitations that are essentially built into the system. The way DesignSafe works is DesignSafe is a layer. Okay, the underlying infrastructure is ran on one of our HPC resources. All right, so you have this resource like Stampede 2 sitting in the background. What DesignSafe is a layer in front of that. Anything that you're doing is essentially launching a job that's being ran on our resource in the background. So when we go to do some of these demos, you'll see little status reports coming up of where in the job cycle things are. So even when you're copying a file, you're essentially executing a job on DesignSafe that's being ran on one of our machines in the background. So we give you we have access to Box.com, Dropbox, and Google Drive. All right, those are what DesignSafe currently supports. To set those up, you go to your dashboard. So if you click on your login, welcome, and click on dashboard, you'll have a place called Manage Account. Under Manage Account, there is a option for third-party applications. If you click on third-party applications, it'll then bring you to which one of these you want to set up. Click on Manage App Settings. Then that will bring you to a screen where it's asking us, or asking DesignSafe, is asking your permission to to give DesignSafe access to your files so you can move those across. You're essentially authorizing your DesignSafe account to access your cloud account. There's also availability of uploading files through Jupyter itself. Those of us use Jupyter Notebooks. Jupyter Notebooks have a built-in upload feature. Once again, small number of files, smaller size files. If you click on upload, it brings you up a little screen. Click the files you need. You can click as many files as you need and click open, and it'll start pulling your files in. Finally, this is the one that I really want to concentrate on and pay some attention to. This is Globus, all right? Everything that we've done so far, everything I've shown you so far is really for small number of files, medium number of files, and they're all, less than 250 meg. But I understand that a lot of people use their local machine to generate large data sets, all right? So to support the ability to upload large data sets, we're utilizing this application called Globus. Now I'm going to walk through this, and I will then do a demo on it where things are. There's a lot of moving pieces with Globus, and I want to make sure that you guys understand how all those pieces are. Feel free to ask questions. We have people who will be able to answer these questions in the chat room. Okay, so Globus is a cloud-based service for reliably moving data from one endpoint to another endpoint. You get access to all of the data sets through a single interface, and the single interface is, once you understand how the interface is set up, it makes a lot of sense. And you can do this through your web browser. Okay, first thing you need to do is when you go to Globus, the screen you're going to see is, all right, I need to log in. Clicking login, it's going to ask for a verifiable account. All right, so there's two sides of authentication. All right, there is authentication, which is, all right, you are authenticated to do something. There's also authorization, which authorizes you to do something. To be able to do that, we need to verify who you are, and we verify that through a trusted system of some sort. So Globus has a list of all their trusted IDs, trusted systems. Find your organization on there. More than likely, your organization is, or you can sign yourself through Google or some other application. So find who you are, where you're at, and then you go ahead and log in, and then it'll take that information. It'll take what's called a token, and that token authorizes Globus to be able to access the different resources. All right. Once you do that, you're going to need to contact DesignSafe and have Globus, the Globus access authenticated for DesignSafe use. All right. So go onto DesignSafe, submit a ticket. In the ticket, say, hey, I'd like to use Globus, and this is my Globus ID, and this is what I'm doing. You'll get an email back. This is from Tim Cockrell, who's one of our directors here at Tack, who will send you an email saying, hey, your setup is complete, and they'll give you little instructions on how to get to DesignSafe and get to Globus and set those two endpoints up. Okay, the next thing is we need to know what that endpoint is that you created so we can access through Globus. So once you've gotten your Globus account set up and you've gotten DesignSafe authorized to be able to use that Globus account, you essentially need to say, hey, this is my certificate that authorizes me to do these transfers. All right. To get that certificate number, which is the certificate subject that's up here, to get that, you need to go to this website called CI Logon. And once again, I'll walk you through this process as well, and it'll give you the certificate subject. So, like I said, this is kind of an involved process. The idea is what we want to make sure that you are who you say you are, you have access to the data you say you need access to, and we're giving everybody the correct access levels. Your data is very, very important, and we realize that. We realize how important your data is. And also, we realize how important your data is, and we realize how bad things would be if you lost your data. So we go through the entire process to secure your information, to secure your data. All right, So once you have this certificate subject set up, you will be going to what we call the Tack user portal. All right, when you set up your DesignSafe account, what you really did, and like I said, DesignSafe is just a layer in front of our resources, our Tack resources. So once you have your DesignSafe account set up, you have access to the Tack user portal. This is a place where you go and manage your account. For the most part, you as a DesignSafe user never have to go here. You only have, because we do all your account management on the DesignSafe side. But if you wish to get Globus up and going and you want to use your DesignSafe account to access data transferred through Globus, you need to do this step. So you take your Globus account that you've created and you need to associate that with your DesignSafe account. So you've created this Globus account, you have a DesignSafe account, you have this certificate that essentially says you are who you say you are. Now you need to put those together. This is what we're doing here. So you take that certificate subject and you log into your DesignSafe Tack account. From the user portal, you say, all right, I'm going to manage my distinguished name. That's what DN stands for, distinguished name. You will then enter in that certificate number and you make that available to your account. Once that's set up, you'll have access to the Globus system, and Globus is going to be able to act on your behalf to move files across the ether. Okay, there's a specific place on Globus where your information is set up at. Remember that that one machine I showed you guys? I said, hey, this is where all your data actually sits. That machine is called Corral. So when we go to Globus, you're going to be using Corral to be able to get your data. All right. And then, of course, finally, there's also the command line. I'm not going to really demo the command line much, but just to give you a heads up, you can do medium-sized files and a medium number of files to the command line. If you're comfortable with the command line, I highly recommend reading the man page on SCP and reading the man page on rsync. Those are two different types of file transfer methods available in Linux that can get your data from point A to DesignSafe. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a couple of hands-on sessions where we can actually see how Globus works, what all those things I meant do, and how you set that up, how to navigate Globus, and also how to navigate DesignSafe. If you have any questions, once again, please feel free to hit us up on the chat window, and we'll be able to get that up for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop my share, and I'm going to share my DesignSafe window. So, do this. All right, so let me know if you can't see something or if something's not right. So here's DesignSafe, all right? I've already logged into it. If I go here to my dashboard, this is where you do your manage your account. This is where I'd set up my third-party application. I would set up my box.com account, my Dropbox account, or my Google Drive. Just click on Manage App Settings and say, all right, my Google Drive is already enabled. If you're already enabled, you'll see this. If you're not enabled, let me go ahead and disconnect it and disconnect. Now, if I click Setup, it will take me to a screen saying, hey, let's go ahead and log in. I'll log in with my DesignSafe, my Tack account here. This will be whatever your account is that you want to connect. I'll put my password in, and I should get something coming back saying, hey, Google Drive has now been enabled. Also, dashboard tells you how many applications are available and how much data you have stored in the data depot. This is also a shortcut to get to the data depot. You can also go through the workbench. I'm going to go ahead and click on data depot here and we'll do a quick walkthrough. So here's my data that I mentioned earlier. My projects, this is a list of all the projects that I'm currently on and a list of the list of what projects and who my other team members are on some of these projects as well. You'll see that this project has been published in a different area, so it's also available in the published area. So I'm looking at the unpublished version right now in front of me. Here's what all the file structures look like that are involved in there. If I click on any one of these, you'll see listing of what the data is, and you also see, hey, here's WaveMaker, here's some categories that this data is in. This is files that have been shared with me, so these are the collaboration efforts that are just done on single files, but not formally through a project. And of course, here's our cloud providers. This is a list of all the published files, of all the published projects which are on DesignSafe that are publicly accessible. I'm going to go ahead and pull one up. I'm going to do a search on Ellen, who's our director of DesignSafe, our PI, and we'll see what one of her projects look like. So here's one of her projects. You'll see that she's got a bunch of folders inside there. Here's some GeoJSON data. We can click on that GeoJSON data, it'll pull it up, but the preview is not available for this particular one. There's information about the description, where it's at. You'll see that there is things to look at is the project name number up here, because we're going to need to know that for Globus. You'll also see that here's the DOI for it. If I click on citation, I can now copy and paste this entire citation into my folder. Also notice the citation gives you the DOI is a link, so we can put that in there. So now somebody can click on that and get to the data set, the DOI of the data set, of what it is and where it's at. And finally, there's community data. So like I said, community data it's a restricted number of people who have access to it. If you have something you'd like to put in the community data resource, fill out a ticket, contact one of us, and we'll see if we can get that moved over. Once again, community data is places that you've done something cool, you've created an interesting application, you've created an interesting data set. It's not formal, so you want to share this with other people, but it's not something you want to publish. For example, here's some Jupyter notebooks that people have written. We have some training notebooks inside here that might be useful to the public, to the DesignSafe community. So you might want to go in here and say, oh, I'm interested in learning how to plot contours in R. So I might click on that and look at what the data set looks like and what the files look like. You can also see there's some sample notebooks and presentations that go along with it, and Python scripts and whatnot. So basically, the community data is a place where there is some interesting information that other DesignSafe community people have created that you might be interested in looking at. Finally, if I want to upload data, I can click Add, and I would say, all right, I want to upload, I want to do a file upload. I would choose the files I wish to have, select all the files I would need, and then click and then upload those to my system. If it's a zip file that I wish to add, you notice in the workspace there is under utilities, there is the extractar zip or gzip file. So if you do have a bunch of files that you have that you want to compress, you can compress those, upload them to DesignSafe, and then use this application, which pull in the file that you wish to. I don't have a gzip file in here, but essentially I would take a file, I would drag it in, put it in what I want to be compressed as, put some information on how long it might take, usually 20 minutes or something, give it a name, and then go ahead and run, and it'll unzip that folder for you. All right. Finally, what I want to show you, what I really want to show you is uploading large amounts of data using Globus. All right. So here's Globus' website, www.globus.org. Clicking login, it wants to know a organization that it can verify your account. One of the organizations here, of course, is the University of Texas. That's what I'm going to click on is University of Texas. That's where I'm located at. University of Texas at Austin. I'm going to go ahead and click continue. I'm going to log in using my ID. It's going to verify who I am and take me to this screen here. This screen here is where you transfer files back and forth, all right? Now, like I said, everything's an endpoint. So you have an endpoint of where you want to get your data to and an endpoint of where your data is currently sitting at, right? One of the endpoints you can do is you can add a personal endpoint. So I can say, all right, this is going to be, my local Mac, right? And I could generate a setup key. I can go ahead and download and install the Globus Connect personally, and it will set up an endpoint for my local machine. Once that endpoint is set up, I can transfer data from that endpoint to other Globus connected endpoints. One of those Globus connected endpoints, oops, that's not where I want to go. I want to go back to transfer files. One of those Globus endpoints is the system that your data is sitting at for DesignSafe. That system is called Corral. So I'm going to go ahead and search for Corral, and actually specifically it's Corral 3. But doing that, we should come up with Corral. Okay, so Corral is where our data sits at. Now on the slide, I gave you a path to where the data is actually at, but we'll go there manually. So first off, it's under RPL, stands for replicated. Remember I told you that the data is replicated in 2 places. So any data that needs to be replicated is located here. That basically makes sure your data is safe. Next, we have which folder we're going to have. We're going to go into projects. Under projects, we have a folder called NHERI. And under NHERI, there's community data, there's projects that you're currently on, and there's public and published, all right? First off, we're going to look at projects. These are projects that you're currently on or need to be able to load data to. Here's the first thing that comes up. Notice that these names aren't very human-friendly names, all right? These names are actually kind of encrypted. What this is an identifier to the folder, to the data you're looking at. To find the folder you actually need, under the data depot, if you go to your projects, see each project has an ID that's associated with that project. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in this one here. Now, I'm not talking about this identification. I am talking about this identification in the URL. That is what's associated with this project in the actual file system. So if I go to Globus, this is 8893144. If I go to Globus and look for 8893144, so 8893144 should show up in here somewhere. So there is 8893144. So I can now move into that folder and be able to transfer data from my machine to that particular project. The other thing is we want to be able to get information out of our system as well. I'm going to go back up one folder here. I'm going to look at the published data. So remember, published data is publicly accessible. So there's data sets in there I may want to pull down and put those on my local machine, or pull those to a different set to run some sort of other simulation on that is not available on DesignSafe. These are a lot more easier readable. All right, so here's a bunch of project files that are available out there. So just look at one of the projects that we're talking about. We'll go back to actually, I wonder what 1293 should be published. So I should be able to find that. Yeah, there it is. PRJ 1293. I can move into that project. There's that folder we were looking at before. Here's that WaveMaker data. So here's all the data that's sitting in there. We can look at the displacement text files, and there's all the text files that's there. I can take all this stuff. I can then, if I have my endpoint app sitting on my machine, I'd be able to transfer that data from DesignSafe to my local machine. Okay, now that's basically a nutshell how Globus works. One thing I want to show you in particular, there's a couple little things I told you about that we need to figure out how to do. One of them is Globus requires that setup file, that certificate that sits on your local machine. If you go to CI login, I'm going to actually already logged in. I'm going to go ahead and log out of this. And so I'm going to go CI logon. All right, so CI logon is going to tell you what that distinguished name is. It's going to give you that certificate. Okay, so find where you look. Once again, find your provider. You can do a search for it. So there's my University of Texas at Austin. I'm going to go ahead and click login. And it already knew who I was, so I didn't have to log in particularly. It knew exactly who I was. This line right here is your certificate. Okay? What we need to do is get that certificate associated with your DesignSafe account. To do that, we go to, actually you can Google portal, actually portal.tack.utexas.edu. If you just Google portal Tack, T-A-C-C, it will take you here, that first link. Here's how you log in. You log in with your Tack account. Your Tack account is your DesignSafe account. So click login with Tack account, type in your username. Click login. Here is where my information sits. Kind of gives us some information on our machines, what they're at. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click Manage Your Profile. Here is some information about me. And now what I can do is go to Manage DNs. So if you see Manage DNs, Manage Distinguished Names. If I click on that, here is a list of all the ones that I have, tokens that I have that I've permitted or associated my Tack account, also known as my portal account, or my DesignSafe portal account to some other entity. So I can go in here, I can paste. Hang on one more time, get my certificate, copy, paste. There's a certificate in there. Unfortunately, I already have this certificate listed, so it's not going to let me add it twice. But once I set that and I click associate, that goes into my list, and now my Globus account is associated with my DesignSafe account. That association is what allows me to get to my Globus files and folders. So I go to Corral. Once again, Corral, replication, R-P-E-L, R-E-P-L, projects, and NHERI. And that's where all of our data is set up, and that's where our data sits. We have the main folders of interest is community. Of course, you want to pull information out. There's projects, and there's published. If you require your home directory to be set up here as well, you contact Tack. If you contact us through a ticket, we'll be able to get that situated for you. All right. Globus is probably one of the most important parts of getting your data into DesignSafe, because you can allow for a large data set. You can allow for a large data set to be transferred easily. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and see if there's any questions. So that pretty much ends our webinar today about getting data transferred from your machine into DesignSafe and what all the little pieces are. I do ask that you guys join Slack. Slack's a great resource. We are always available to help you guys out. If you join us on Slack, there's much different channels. There is a training channel as well. There's also the general channel for general questions. Like I said, each major natural hazard event usually has a channel associated with that as well. So you can go to DesignSafe or go to the Slack channel and ask questions there about those particular events or share information with us. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email us at training@designsafe-ci.org, or you can fill out a ticket, just designsafe-ci.org help tickets, or go to the help menu and click submit a ticket. I also want to tell you our next webinar will be here in just a few weeks, and the topic of that one is going to be about OpenFOAM. So if you have any knowledge, or if you have any information or curious about what that application gives you, feel free to join us then. I'm going to go ahead and leave this channel open a little bit longer and leave this meeting going a little longer. Feel free to ask me any questions, and feel free to ask me any questions on the chat board. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to see you guys next time. Hope you guys got some good information from this. All right, thank you very much.